Clarke is saying that the player is only 21 and could not travel on his own to Japan. Don't make any sense. He got to Amsterdam on his own. He's playing in Belgium, living alone. He's an adult. That don't make no sense. The JFF continue to think that the players are kids. Not because we call them Reggae Boys. These are men. These are grown men.
Welcome, Sports Nation, to Sports DTM, the sports channel where we call sports down the middle. You can expect the latest in sports news, views, and reviews from our resident analysts. No sports topic is too controversial, and no team or player is above criticism. So just smash that subscribe button and ring that notification bell to make sure you don't miss out on our balanced offering of riveting sports content. And don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment below. Welcome to Sports DTM.
Greetings, Sports DTM fans, and welcome to another episode of Sports Down the Middle, the channel of undiluted sports content. News has now emerged as to the reasons behind Tyreek Magee not being in Japan. And those reasons are surrounding Winston Clarke and the JFF. But before we get into the details, we see that you've been watching and liking our videos. We also want you to be part of the Sports DTM family by clicking that subscription button. If that subscription button is still red, it simply means you have not yet subscribed. So click that button and welcome to the Sports DTM family. So what we know is that Tyreek Magee left Jamaica on Saturday to Amsterdam. On arrival in Amsterdam, or in boarding the flight from Amsterdam to Japan with the rest of the players, they were advised that they never had the correct PCR test to enter Japan. Tyreek Magee, however, had that correct test and was told by Mr. Winston Clarke that he should not board the flight because, why? He is age 21 and he don't know anybody in Japan, and there's nobody in Japan for him to go to. So it's best if him stay in Amsterdam at the airport where him still don't know anybody, him still don't have anybody to go to, and stay in that airport alone for 3 days before deciding whether or not he should continue to stay in Amsterdam on the floor or go back to Jamaica, which he did. So Mr. Winston Clarke advised Tyreek Magee not to board to Japan, but rather stay in Amsterdam for 3 days alone. Fans out there, we hear this and we upset. But analysts, talk to me. Is anybody as upset as me having heard this news broadcast?
In my opinion, this just seems like gross negligence. Why was the decision left up to an agent to decide whether or not this player would board a flight? Where was the rest of the JFF delegation? We hear Ricky saying that he didn't know, he doesn't know what's happening. Tapa says him don't know what happened. So why what happened to the hierarchy, the JFF hierarchy? What happened to the team manager? What happened to the coach? Nobody knew what was happening with Magee. Nobody knew he spent 2 days at the airport. No other flight arrangements were made for him to go to Japan. I don't know. This just seems like a whole lot of miscommunication happening in the JFF right now. Nobody have WhatsApp. Nobody have phones to make calls. They need to fix this.
Yes, Kurt, this is unacceptable, right? Mr. Winston Clarke, the agent of the Jamaica Football Federation, is putting up his hand and telling us that he was the one who advised Magee not to board the flight from Amsterdam to Japan, right? I mean, he's trying to put it off in the context that he's trying to protect the player because there was nobody else from the federation who would have been in Japan at the time, and he wanted them to travel as a group. But we're not talking about a child here. We're talking about an adult, right? And Jamaica also has an embassy in Japan, who, if anything should happen, we could get arrangement for him to stay until the other rest of the group came on board. I mean, he had his test in hand. So you're leaving the young man there to wait in the airport for at least a day, right? Unsupervised, unaccounted for, and you're making a very critical decision. And in making that decision, the JFF president isn't aware of that decision. I mean, the coach isn't aware of that decision. It is just the height of slackness.
You know, yesterday we heard the rumblings. We heard that something went down with Magee, and we figured as much that it was Winston Clarke because he was the one dealing with this whole matter of getting the players to Japan. But to now hear that he came out to say it was his fault and the reasons in which he gave, it does make things worse, you know? It was better that he kept his mouth shut because what he's saying doesn't make any sense. One, Clarke is saying that the player is only 21 and could not travel on his own to Japan. Don't make any sense. He got to Amsterdam on his own. He's playing in Belgium, living alone. He's an adult. That don't make no sense. The JFF continue to think that the players are kids. Not because we call them Reggae Boyz. These are men. These are grown men. Two, he's so concerned about his well-being, but yet he left him in an airport by himself for 2-3 days to wait to see if he can board a flight. Come on, man. Anything could have happened to the young man. Thirdly, I just want to ask a question. If this was an English-based player, you think this would happen? Remember, you know, he's an English-based agent for the JFF. And the other English players got better treatment. They went back to England, did their test, and went on a flight to Japan. But the Jamaican is left at an airport by himself. Think about it. Lastly, if this was another core player like Damon Lowe, you think this would have happened? If this was Andre Blake? No. So why Magee? Come on, man. The JFF, you need to do better, you guys. You don't look good at all. You need to work out the arrangements. It's so bad now that we cannot get players to a game. Come on, man.
Shock. I was still in shock, wondering what Mr. Clarke was trying to explain. He said the player, he was concerned about the player, so he decided to not to send the player to Japan because he was concerned. He left the player in the airport. The player had to stay in the airport for 2 days. But what Mr. Clarke failed to understand, or he didn't realize what he was saying to Jamaica. There was another English-based player there. There was another English-based player who had the same result or the same test result as Mr. Magee. And this player was there, and this player went back to England with the core of players and then traveled back. So what Mr. Clarke is saying, that player couldn't stay with Magee? Is he saying that player couldn't stay with Magee and then they all board a flight together and go to Japan? There was another player there with the same result. But this player went back to England with the set of players them and then left Magee at the airport. Not only that, couldn't Mr. Clarke then contacted the hotel where Magee would be staying and send a airport shuttle to pick up Magee at the airport? Then Mr. Magee would go back to the airport and settle in for the rest of players to come in. Mr. Clarke, I don't see a point. I don't see what you're talking about. I don't see what excuse what you're giving for the player to stay in an airport for 2 days and then go back to Jamaica, go back home, while the rest of the players are there enjoying and want to represent the country. Mr. Clarke, you need to pull up your socks. You need, because the excuse you're giving is lame. It's totally lame. That not carry water. You understand? The excuse that you're giving, not carrying water. Because there's so much thing it can be. Mr. Clarke, I have been in airport already and see somebody sending off their pets. Their pets from one destination to the other, and somebody pick up their pet. A pet, and Mr. Magee is living all alone in Belgium, where he apply his trade. Right? He's not a baby. He's a big man, he's an adult. And you're treating the man like a baby. Mr. Clarke, you need to do better. You need to do better, sir.
Here you have it, Sports DTM fans. Another episode of Sports Down the Middle. The reasons why Tyreek Magee is back in Jamaica and not in Japan as he was scheduled to be. Mr. Winston Clarke decided that it was best for Tyreek Magee to stay in Amsterdam in the airport alone for days instead of going to Japan. He also mentioned that there was no one in Japan to receive him. But the JFF had 13 officials and 10 players in Japan. So I can't understand what he means by there's nobody in Japan to receive him. And Tyreek is an adult. Yeah, 21, young, but an adult. Kids have been traveling long distances for years and nothing happened to them. Fans out there, let us hear from you. We'd love to hear from you. So leave those comments in the comment section below. And always remember to like, to share, and to subscribe. This has been another episode of Sports Down the Middle. Be blessed.